Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome back to Faster U4. Brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. So, didn't go bike racing on the weekend. I'm not gonna this weekend. There's some reasons for that, and I'll tell you what they are. I have some thoughts about this time of year, endurance training and weights, which I think are really important. I'll give you some thoughts about maybe how to get through this part of the season. Some tips that might be useful. I haven't heard these anywhere before, so I'll spit them. I'll talk about predictions and thoughts about the courses for the weekend, which is the age group national championships in Wairarapa. What I think tactically will happen, maybe how you can tune your tactics to this. And but first I'll talk about a little bit about my season as a whole and some thoughts I have. Well, the last race I did actually do was the Graperide. So this is a just under 100k mass start, semi mass start road race in Blenheim. So if you haven't done this before, I'd have a think about doing it at some stage, adding it to your list of big races to do. Like everyone knows that the Round Lake Taupo race is sort of a good thing to have experienced. And I've done that plenty of times, and tour of Southland, and which I've never done, by the way, which I feel still bad about. Maybe the North Island Team Series, but Graperide is sort of one of the big races up there. That's tracks. I think it must have been somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people. It seemed like a lot of people to me. Hosted out of Forest Vineyards in Renwick, and it's really well set up. It's a great sort of place to host an event, and my God, you should see the grass at the vineyard. It's the most beautiful grass, and it made me think how ashamed I am of the grass in my backyard. There's a lot of grass-based discussion. They give you, when you register and you've been before, a bottle of the wine that they crushed underfoot at the previous year's race. So as a sort of an event after the race, you can choose to be one of the grape crushing virgins, or you get to go and literally dive into one of those big vats of grapes and crush them under your feet full on, and they actually use the juice for producing the wine for the next year's vintage. And I think that is possibly one of the better gimmicks I've ever heard in my life, and it'll probably bring me back for a second go at it. So that's the event, what it is. Starts in waves. Like any big event like this, in a relatively small place, you can't just have 1,500 people all elbowing each other for the whole shot. So they start you in waves based on your predicted time. And my man Scott McDonnell and I, wanted to be near the front, and he had this genius idea, which was go and leave your bike up right by the front. And I thought that was a good idea, so that was good. We probably didn't need to ultimately, but that was a good idea. So there's the Speed Bunnies. Those are the guys, they're sort of the open pro group. I don't really feel like doing because I'm too broken at this end of the season, but we went in the first wave of the idea of the fastest amateurs, if you like. Look, long story short, how does it start? The first part of it, I don't know, I didn't really dig the course particularly until it gets into the mountainous sort of area of the Tua Marina, I think it is, heading out towards, is it Queen Charlotte Drive or something, the one that goes from Picton over to Havelock. That's the most picturesque part of the course. Unfortunately, that's exactly where I punctured and was out of the race. The pace wasn't particularly high up till then. There's a lot of, it's weird actually, like an event like this, there's a lot of sort of just slightly unusual tactics and weirdness going on in the bunch because of the size of the bunch and who's there, and just because it's a big race, guys wanting to do well. So slightly different riding styles, but look, ultimately it's generally in a bigger, longer event like this a good idea to sort of shelter in the bunch a little bit, not try to do anything dramatic off the front. A couple other guys did, but it came to nothing. This first third of the course is rolling and flat. After Picton, it's very, and around the bays, it's very hilly and fast. Series of short to medium length climbs, quite steep in places, and then on the return leg from Havelock to Blenheim, quite open and fast and flat, and a lot of that was a tailwind. So sort of the course as a whole, my man Scott won his age group, which was good. The winner of the overall was Michael Vink, I think, in that in the amateur group. So sorry if I sound a bit far away. A good event, I'd go again. Good fast ride. I think the best riders finish it in close to 2.5 hours, so it's a fast 97 Ks or whatever it is, and I'd do it again. I feel a bit like I didn't particularly mind that I punctured. I wasn't there riding for myself particularly, I was there more to support Scott and Andrew, who had a FitLab tent set up at the start and was driving the lead car. I sort of wanted to be there to join in and be part of all that, which was good. We did have a FitLab tent set up, and we had some body composition testing going on for free, so people could test their muscle and fat mass. We had a little competition. Who had the lowest fat? I think Scotty won, about 6.7% fat. I think on the day I was about 10.3 or something. A lot of young guys coming along, and these sort of 18-year-olds with body fat in the 7 to 9% range, very skinny units. But I feel like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity in a way. We should have been better set up, better organised. But we, learned that lesson. We'll probably come back next time and do it a little bit better. So that's my thoughts about Graperide. So that was a good final event for me. So for me, a couple of things. My form is in the toilet, and I know that because I've done my own testing. My lactate testing is a bit low, and that's completely in line with my expectations for this part of the season. My participation at age group nationals was always going to be a little bit contingent on that. Fortunately this weekend I've got some family issues to deal with, and my hamstring has decided, off the tendon in my right hamstring has decided to give me some pain, and all of these things have kind of combined to mean I would rather support my riders who are riding at the Vantage Age Group National Championship in Carterton this weekend rather than ride myself for a mediocre result. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll give you some thoughts about that. Look, all I'd say is that this weekend, time trial wise, the wind is likely to be such that, the wind in the course are such that you probably want to, if you have a target power, sit close to that target power or even a smidge under, so that you can conserve a little bit for the first half. That's because in the second half, it's where there is more climbing, and it's likely to be more into a cross headwind. You want to put out more power if you can into that sector of a course. So say your target power for this course was 300 watts. You might want to be somewhere between 290 to 300 average for the first half. Turn around. On the climbs, you want to bring it over 300, 320, 330, something like that, for short periods of 1 to 3 minutes. Then you can settle back down to that 300 zone and then maybe on the final up to Carterton, if you've got anything left to bring it over 300, go for it. That would be sort of a general strategy for the time trial. For the road race, it's a little bit different. Some thoughts about the road race. One, position is super important. If it is gusty wind, you don't want to end up losing a wheel or having someone in front of you lose a wheel and go backwards because of that. Number two, nutrition and water. I mean, some of these races are long for amateur club riders, and you just need to make sure that you have enough nutrition and fluid insurance for an 80 kg rider on an average temperature day, 18 to 20 degrees for 3 hours. You probably want a 750 ml bottle per hour. Plus, you may want some gels if you're not using Tailwind. You may even want a solid food item part way. Generally speaking, more is better. Don't let yourself down there. And technically, I don't know, I sort of suspect that except for really unusual riders, unusually powerful riders in a wet group, it's unlikely that anyone will get away on some spectacular breakaway, because the stakes are too high for a lot of people in a race like this. So it may well come together. Exceptions may be riders like Jim McMurray in Master 4 or 5, whatever he rides in, who has a habit of being so strong in a breakaway that the bunch simply can't catch him. He might be the sort of person you'd want to mark. Apart from that, I suspect bunches could stay together because people don't want breaks to go away, especially if there are good riders, depth of good riders still left in the bunch. And the only thing that could happen is you might want to sort of role play in your head what happens if you are coming into the closing kilometres, someone strong does launch a massive attack down the side and has potentially 20 seconds on the bunch very quickly. That scenario can be different because people, you know if it's going to come back or not. So strong riders in the bunch may not want to work late in the race, and it can mean that it's really poised on a knife edge between that person staying away and them being more back, and you just don't know. And maybe your tactic needs to be more along the lines of, well, what sort of rider are you? If you think you can see someone's going to do that, you're probably not going to be able to bridge to them because everyone will just jump on your wheel. So you need to decide if you're going there and then. So if you miss it, you probably miss it, and you need to encourage the bunch to chase if you want to be in it. If not, if you have a chance to getting on it, if you're a good time trialist and you're good at staying away, and you think you're in with a chance, there's a tailwind, maybe there's something you want to do, and the bunch isn't working. The bunch is working, you're into a headwind, the person hasn't really got that far, or doesn't look like they're going to be that strong when they do go, you might not. And those decisions, especially at the end of a race when you're tired, can be quite hard to make, especially when the difference between getting on it or not is like 1 second. So what I say is you might want to have that almost planned in your mind ahead of that time. Be watching, very good position and very alert near the front of the bunch, and decide what you're going to do. It's probably the best tactic for that. I can see a lot of these races coming together as sprints, and all I'd say is, if you want to sprint, don't get boxed in. Maybe pick a good wheel if you're not a strong sprinter. If you are a strong sprinter, be in a good position to open up. But above all of that, I hate to be your mother, but please be safe. There's been a lot of broken collarbones this season. We don't want any more. If you're a crap sprinter, your heart isn't really in it, and you're not like 100%, if your brain isn't really functioning, and you feel like you could be a hazard yourself, maybe want to step out of it and just do as well as you can from the also rans, because this race can mean a lot to some people and you want to give them the best possible chance and keep everyone safe. That's all I'd say about it. And remember that even for most people who see this as a high profile race of the season, your worth as a rider and your success of a season is not built upon one race, guys. Look, when I had that puncture at Graperide, I put almost zero emotional energy into it because it's just one race. Yeah, I mean, I got to travel and it's a hassle and all that. But look, rake racing is a war, not a battle. Right, so that's Age Group National. I got to give a shout out to a few of my riders who are potentially going to do really well. I'm looking forward to Helen Monster Betty having a good ride in Master 2 Women. She will be riding super strong. Got Alan Koziarski riding one of the older male grades. He's riding really well. Go well. Got Socks, Stephen R2 O'Keefe. Excellent sprinter. He's riding well. He should be going really, really well. Who am I forgetting? Joe's pulled out. We have got Stuart's pulled out. Who hasn't? We have got I've got a bunch of riders and I'll put them all up on Facebook or something when they're finished. I'll be there getting some videos and stuff. Come and see me. Anyone who needs any mechanical support or anything like that before the race, happy to help. Oh, and I don't think there's any feeding or anything allowed, so I can't do that. This horror sort of scenario in my mind of handing someone a bottle and then they get disqualified or something like that. So sorry, I can't help you there, but if you want to throw me an item of clothing or anything like that, feel free to do that. Alright, have a great race, stay safe. Second thing, just some thoughts about this part of the season, which is, for a lot of people, nearing the end. We do have one or two more races in Wellington coming up after Nationals, the biggest of which is probably PMP Race 5, the final of the PMP Summer Series in Upper Hutt. After that, normally it's a really good opportunity for a lot of riders to have a transition phase. The transition phase is usually 1 to 2 weeks where you're not on a structured program, and really what you're doing is riding just for fun, as and when you want to, and also having any of the food or booze or anything like that you feel like you sort of miss out a little bit on sometimes when you are on a structured training program. That's a good mental and physical decompression time. So, and don't underestimate it. There's a sort of habit people have. They can actually be reasonably fit going into a period like this, and they sort of want to overdo it. There's nothing wrong with riding, but just really feel like, am I have this question in mind, which is, am I having fun on this ride? And if you're not, and if the weather's cold, or you'd rather be at your kids' netball game, then go and do that, because there will be plenty of opportunities quite soon when you will want to be training. It may be cold, you could be on the indoor trainer. That's not all that fun, but kind of has to be done. This is the fun part. So after that, yep, most people will be heading into some phase where you're going to be, people used to call it sort of your base endurance phase. And two things about that, especially for middle-aged riders. So, issue number one, boredom. And kind of sameness. So the purpose of operating for a long period of time, generally between lactate 1 and 2 millimoles per litre of blood, is to stimulate the sorts of hormonal and body changes that only happen training in that zone for long periods of time. Hormones, growth hormone excretion, mitochondrial density, heart stroke, lung capacity, And maybe that last one on the end of that list is something a little bit harder to quantify, but I think we all know it when we hear it, which is like endurance and maybe more specifically like cramp resistance. Now I know that the cramp resistance will be related to all of those aforementioned issues, but there is something about pedaling, going up for a solid big ring ride, not stopping pedaling for 3 to 4 hours. It builds up kind of probably a combination of mental and physical endurance that I don't think you can really, you can't get anywhere else. So the downside of all of that is, of course, it can be monotonous because you can't really do this on, you can do it on a mountain bike, but it has to be a very benign course. You don't want to be getting a lot of recovery, ups and downs. You really want to be out on the road, flat, rolling, turning over the gear, long period of time. So how are you going to do that without going insane is kind of a question on a lot of people's minds. Everyone has this notion about how great it's going to be because they start watching Paris-Roubaix and Flanders and all the races that are on this time of year, and it lasts for about a week, and then they want to shoot themselves in the face because it's hard. Well, I've got a couple of thoughts about that. One is a weird one. I'll give you this sort of my number one tip for these kind of rides. Number one and number two. Number one is zone out. So I like to, here's how it works. You're riding on a flat stretch of road. It doesn't really matter whether it's head or tail or anything like that. And really you've just got a solid long period of time ahead of you where you're in same rhythm, same cadence, all of that. I want you just to get into a cadence that feels comfortable. Don't really focus on cadence particularly unless you have some weird cadence that needs to be rectified. Just a cadence that feels right sometimes into a tailwind it's big, sometimes into a headwind it's small. Maybe for you it's vice versa. Whatever it is, you'll know it when you feel it. That sounds like a really subjective thing to say. I suppose it is really. But you'll know it when you feel it. I want you to maybe, here's what I do, try this out. Lock up your shoulders a little bit. Kind of hunch, put your head down, kind of between your shoulders a bit. Almost TT kind of style. Let it almost flop a little bit. Let your body just move a little side to side. My favourite hand position is up on the hoods, quite high, and almost have like a loosest grip. All my fingers around the front of the brake. Here's my position. A little bit loosey-goosey. Put my eyes down a bit and look up to the top of my glasses. Okay. I know I sound like this is getting really zen, but here it comes. You're going to start to float up out of your body a little bit. Just float up. I'm going to imagine looking down on yourself riding along, kind of like that view on Zwift you get when the camera, if there was a camera angle, was looking down, directly down on you from 3 or 5 meters up in the air like a little drone following you. That's you. You're in your own little Zwift game. You're getting all zoned and rhythm on. Maybe don't look at your computer, get a feel for what your power target is, for that endurance zone we discussed. Get a feel for what that feels like. Down the road. Zone out. All the usual caveats about safety apply, but like oftentimes you're on roads where there's not much traffic anyway. Don't wander, don't wiggle around or anything like that. And it's not that you're so far zoned out you can't hear and see what's going on around you. You're just zoning rhythm. Sometimes you can do that. 20 minutes goes past and you wonder where it went. So that's number one, zone out. Number two, what is number two? I wrote it down. I thought this was a goodie though. If I didn't think it was a goodie, I wouldn't have written it down. Oh yeah, for the ride as a whole, this is a very counterintuitive thing to a scientific training notion, but here we go. Have a sort of a distance marker in mind that is kind of like a, feels, when you finish the ride, it feels like an accomplishment. Now, I know you shouldn't really be operating based on distance because that says nothing about the time you've been in zone and all that. But, oh, I got a call. I will send them a message. Sorry, I can't talk. I'll call you back. Sorry, whoever it was. So, have a feeling in your mind about what distances that's their accomplishment rather than time. For me, on a ride of this nature, reasonably long, I like that 100k, I like that triple digit, just 100. So I'll figure out where the turnaround point is, or maybe look at Map My Ride or Strava or something, figure out what 100k is, go and do that circuit. And it can be easier to get through it because you're sort of covering the ground. Every pedal stroke is a pedal stroke closer to home. I know none of that changes whether or not you have a distance target in mind, but it can help psychologically. That's what I think. Maybe even have, here's one I do, again, super non-scientific, but can help an average speed target in mind. Maybe, try to average more than 30k an hour. Now, of course, that's going to be a little bit dependent on power. Sometimes maybe you can use a bit more aero position or something like that to increase your average speed. Whatever it's going to be, have a target that isn't just power and time related. Non-scientific, I know, but I think it sometimes helps. There'll be a couple of tips about endurance training. That's what I'll be using. Right, so I think that's it. That's Graperide. There's my thoughts about that. Oh, and maybe one last thing, which is, again, a certain type of training this time of year, for a lot of people, really helpful, weight training. And I don't think you can get the sort of concentrated effort outside of a gym that you need to. So what you do, if you're serious about your performance this next season, and you want to get the most out of this period of time coming up over the next 3 to 6 months, weight training, you got to do it, guys. You got to do it. So I know a lot of people don't like it, but that's, I think, because they make it hard to do. Here's the hot tip: sign up with a gym nearby that you can go to on your way home from your training ride, and do this 2 or 3 times a week. And here's what I do: I rock up to Club Kelvin, and all of my lycra and shoes and everything. I don't take anything. I just don't take anything with me. I lock my bike up outside. I wander in, and I hit here's my little circuit for the time being, which is leg press. That's the one where you're sitting and you're pushing the weights out in front of you. It's going to work your quads. You've got your squat. Everyone dreads it, but there's no real reason why. It's your free weight squat, so you've got the bar on your shoulder, good form, coming down, pressing up, and you got your hamstring curl. Here's the Steve special, hamstring curl. That's where you're lying down on your front. You bring your legs up, back towards your bum. You can imagine that's really isolating your hamstring. I don't like this notion of a lot of complicated movements for a long period of time, simply for the reason that you won't do it. You'll do it for a week, you'll hate it, you'll never come back. And that's what a lot of people do. I want you in and out of that gym, maybe 20 to 25, maybe 30 minutes. You're going to do a little circuit. You're going to do 10 times 3 or 3 times 10 reps for each of those movements. You shake out your legs and have a drink for a minute between. Get your circuit done, unlock your bike, have a spin out your legs, 5-10 minutes on the way home. Boom, you're done. You've just added less than half an hour to your ride, but got a lot more benefit. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about that is, which is the first couple of times you go, you will get muscle soreness. You're gonna wake up, it's never the same day, it's always the next day and the day after. DOMS, D-O-M-S, delayed onset muscle soreness. Happens every time. I've got it today, that's why I'm doing this recovery ride. You're gonna, it's kind of like the achy feeling. Well, probably you've felt it before. It's just I don't think there's anything you can particularly do about it. So apart from staying a little bit active, maybe popping an ibuprofen or two, and realizing that after a couple of sessions, it will go away and you'll stop having it. And that's when it starts to get good. Just listened to a podcast a couple of days ago who kept pronouncing ibuprofen as ibuprofen or something like that, and it drove me completely insane, in exactly the same way as people who pronounce nuclear, and that is wildly unacceptable and needs to stop. Ibuprofen, people, unless some kind of brand name or something like that, I'm willing to let it go. Otherwise, let's all get the syllables right, shall we? Okay. I'll leave it there. If you'd like a plan and testing from me, you can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. You can go to fitlab.co.nz. I just upgraded my little profile a little bit to include a couple of this season's wins and things, which is good. And get hold of us through the website. As always, this is brought to you by FitLab. Show in nutrition, biomaxa and capital cycles, and I will be on the side of the road cheering all my savages from FitLab on the weekend. Good luck, stay safe, see you soon.